Welcome back to part 2 of our 2-part interview with Anthony Lolli. In my particular market, Seattle, Bellevue, there's 25,000 agents within that one market. And I think there's something crazy like a few hundred up to, at one point, 1,000 new agents per month in that new market for somebody who's 19, for somebody who's coming into the space. And due to Facebook, due to the power of social media, real estate has become a very sexy, attractive, job.
Sure.
What kind of advice would you give someone who's dead serious, who's dead set on making their splash and writing a book in 10 years?
Immerse yourself in the business. You look at all the greats.
Yeah.
They did their internships. They cut their teeth. They paid their dues.
Yeah.
Malcolm Gladwell writes
Yes.
an excellent book called Outliers,
Yes.
right? He talks about the 10,000-hour rule.
Yep.
There's no cheating it. You got to put the 10,000. You got to put it in. But that doesn't mean that you can't get a head start and get 10,000 hours of reading and now video watching
Yep.
and social media following. I mean, you can kind of get there shorter if you learn from other people's experiences.
Absolutely.
And shows like yours can help, most certainly, because not only do you introduce people to industry leaders, but then they can continue to follow that leader moving forward.
Absolutely.
So I think the idea is seek, learn, be a sponge.
Be a sponge.
Get all the learning and get all the mistakes that you could potentially go through out of your system by watching someone else's mistakes. And then you're going to have upward trajectory.
Love that. Thank you. Thank you. Who has been the most influential in your success, specifically in Rapid Realty?
I think my mother and my father. They were the most influential because they've been by my side in terms of being a cheerleader. It's important, that you have somebody that's your anchor. So I think that beyond my parents and my cousin and my brother, who I talk about in the book, I look at other successful people in other industries.
Right.
I'm not a big sports fan. I don't follow sports, but I follow the business of sports.
Me either, actually.
I'm lost. My partner, he's really good at sports. He can go for hours with it. But for me, I'm a connoisseur of biographies, right? I like biographies. I watch the History Channel. It's an interesting show, The Men Who Built America. That's the kind of stuff that I'm interested
Me as well.
in. I'm immersed in that. So I follow entrepreneurs like people follow the NASDAQ or sports figures. So that's my world. So I know what's going on with all of these successful people and what's happening in their lives. And
So tune in, folks. Stay tuned in.
Yeah.
One thing on that subject, I noticed that your Instagram is pretty juicy. It's pretty entertaining.
Yeah.
Is that something that you guys have been doing since the launch of the book, or has that kind of just been your deal?
I like my social media approach. My social media approach is more sincere and genuine.
It is.
It's like the real deal.
It's not. You do a lot of. Your life is already pretty exciting already.
Yeah.
But I do appreciate that it's not like, hey, look at how much money I'm making or all this cool, awesome stuff I'm doing. It just so happens that it is cool.
Yeah, it's just real. If you go down the timeline of all my social media, it tells you the story year by year, day by day, week by week, month by month. And when I meet people, they feel like they've known me already because they follow it, and I think that's the approach I take with social media. So right now, obviously, we're all about the book, and so there's a lot in and around the book, and the book has its own fan base, and obviously it's attached and associated to me. But and my goal for the book is for it to be one of the anchor tools that people in the industry must read.
Right.
There are certain books out there
good.
that you must have,
Yes,
right?
yes.
So I want this to be one of them. For me, that would be a nice legacy.
Awesome. I love that. Talk to us and talk to me about Rapid Realty and that opportunity. You started it. It sounds like there were some rough times.
Yeah.
And now it's just exploding. You're growing very rapidly. And where are we at right now? You have, 60 plus locations?
Yeah, 60 plus locations. Okay. We're opening up in other markets.
Okay.
I've always been a person to give people opportunity.
Yeah.
And I realized early on in my career that a really good real estate agent doesn't want to be capped. at just being a really good real estate agent. So some of the people want to build a team and run a team and have their own operation. So I created an opportunity where we can channel that energy. And so you want to own your own office, you want to run your own business, boom, here's the avenue. So, for us it was franchising. So, we franchised the company and we grew. And we're continuing to grow. So we're always open to hear about new markets and new territories people want to be in, and we're always getting inbox for, hey, I'd like to open up here. We were just talking about Seattle. I mean, definitely would love to open up in Seattle. So it's a concept that works because we're not selling asbestos underwear, right? This is not something that's going out of style. It's real estate. It's the food, clothing, and shelter, right? So we're in the shelter business. People want to rent homes, rent commercial spaces, buy homes. So we're in that space. We're in the service industry. But we're also in the ambition business. If you look at some of the greats, I was watching an interview about Mark Cuban, right? He said, what would you do if you lost it all? He said, well, first of all, I'd get a gig, a stable gig like a bartending or whatever, but then I'd get a sales job where it had a commission component to it. Because that's unlimited income. When you have that commission component, it's only up to you. It's only up to how hard you want to work and how smart you want to work.
Yes. What personal characteristic or attribute do you most value and respect?
From myself or from anyone else?
From anyone else. A friend, a work colleague, someone like myself. What do you look for in people that you want to surround yourself with?
Straight shooters.
Okay.
I always I sit down with people and I say, what do you want out of this relationship? Or what do you want out of life? Like, I like people's stories. Like, where do you see yourself? And I like being a part of it. If there's something that I could do to contribute to that.
That's great.
Whether or not there's a gain for me, it doesn't matter. I like gaining relationships that are long-term relationships. So I like to know what is the goal, and I'm it's kind of like if we were musicians and you were here playing and I would come and jam out with you, you know what I mean? And maybe add some value to your tune, not that we're making an album together, but hey, maybe we could, right?
No,
you know what I mean?
That's honest and true, because during that conversation, when me and you first spoke, I was walking around Seattle, I think I was at some kind of festival or something. I was up front, I said, hey, look, just by the way, I'm not at your level quite yet. I'd love to be there. I'm working hard. I think that we're going to get to a pretty impressive spot. But as of right now, I think the most views we had was like 8,000.
Right.
And you said that's cool. That's totally okay. I love what you're doing. I'm willing to help. Let's do it. So once again, thank you.
No problem.
I super appreciate you. Knowing what you know now, is there anything that you would do differently?
I think, well, it depends on all different levels, right? As far as challenges and adversities, I wouldn't take it so personally. When you're in the human being business, when you're getting started in business, you're dealing with human beings. And human beings, there's treachery, betrayal. I talk about it in my book, but I thought about things, and it depends on what your religious take is, if there is one or not. There's this couple of famous sayings, God had his angel that, don't forget, the devil was once an angel. So even God couldn't keep
the top
top guy, loyal, you know what I mean? So, and it's, you got to do the best you can and know that when you're in the volume business, you're always going to get a batch here and there. But, the whole goal is don't take it personal. Just keep it moving.
That's great. Actually, on the way here, I was listening to a video. I was kind of recapping your life story as of now. I mean, you're still a young man. There was a point in which you decided to branch off on your own. I think you had either 6 or 9 agents under you, and then all of them left. That's a pretty heavy blow, because from one second, here you are gaining so much momentum. You're probably feeling on top of the world. Things are going so great, and then everyone leaves. What went through your mind, and how did you deal with that?
Well, there was several times that happened. When I was working for somebody, that somebody didn't pay the people that on the team that I built, and they left, so I had to start from scratch. And then eventually when I built my business, I had gotten promises for people to kind of run and manage some locations, and then they decided to leave.
Wow.
So, you deal with these adversities by just rising above it. One thing that you learn as a business owner, as long as you don't leave, you are the star player.
Yeah,
it's
right,
like you can take everybody else. If you're LeBron,
Sure,
right? If you are the player, then that's it.
That's it.
You are the guy that is the most critical component. So
that, along with having a single point intention. I was just reading a book by Deepak Chopra, The 7 Spiritual Laws of Success, and it brought me and gave me a focus on you. Actually, just on the way here, I was rereading it, and it was a point talking about how important it is to have one single point intention.
Right.
How the universe conspires for you to bring that single point to fruition isn't even really up to you.
Right.
We as human beings probably don't have the intellectual capacity to really think through how something could come our way.
Right.
But ultimately, stay focused, know where you want to go, have faith in yourself.
Yep.
And somehow, some way, the right things end up happening. In my life, there's been a lot of ups and a lot of downs in business. And sometimes the thing that you really wanted to happen, you worked so hard, you did everything right, you put in the work, and somehow someone else screws it up, or you screw it up, or whatever it is. But if you stay on task, something better comes your way.
100%.
And it seems like that has been a habitual way of being for you.
I believe
every time it gets worse, it gets better.
I think a lot of life is preordained. It's just when you look back at things, you're like, man, that was supposed to be challenging, and it was, but it led to this.
Yes.
And you say that, okay, but then it led to this.
Right.
You're like, maybe that's the secret sauce.
That's it. Exactly.
Yeah.
Just going back to the whole game analogy is that you have to face the boss, and oftentimes I found the boss is you.
Yes.
It's the scary, fearful thoughts that really you have every reason to be scared. You have every reason to be fearful, every reason to want to give up. But if you want that next level, you have to earn it.
Right.
So, Anthony, you have a lot of accomplishments. Which accomplishments or which experiences in your life have brought you the most joy?
The first of anything.
The first
of everything brings me the most joy. The first deal, right? The first office that opened.
Yeah.
The first book. It's the first thing. The moment is when the first thing happens.
Yeah.
It brings me joy. And I think that just having wisdom, getting older, learning, and looking back and reflecting and saying, man, I remember that time, and I'm pretty proud of you, Anthony, patting yourself. There are some times where you kind of have to pat yourself on the shoulder. You have to. Reward yourself, and treat yourself to a little bit of a good job,
Absolutely.
So those moments, that's really what I live for.
That's great. I'm trying to do that more now. My girlfriend's always trying to remind me of, that went so well, or, this is great. But I think if you are ambitious, you planted your flag at the top of the mountain. And if you're working your way up the basin or, in the middle, there's still so much to do. It's still so far to go.
Right.
Sometimes in that state of mind, it's hard to be thankful for the moment and be thankful for how far you come. Actually, a big part of Thatch's interview that we just did a couple of weeks ago, Thatch Wynn, is talking about taking the time to appreciate and be satisfied and happy with not so much what you've accomplished so far, but how far you've come.
Right.
Because it's so easy to say, I want to be there, I want to be driving a Rolls Royce, but I'm driving this.
Yeah.
And therefore I'm not successful.
Right.
But depending on where you came from, maybe you didn't have a car.
Right.
A few years prior. And so just being happy and constantly being thankful for where you're at currently, I think that's huge. And that helps me a lot because as someone who's ambitious, it's easy to look at what you're going to have and what you don't have, and you tell yourself somehow, some way that you will be happy and satisfied once you achieve those things.
I think for me, my secret sauce, it's all mental, right? So let's say, for example, we had to clean this whole place up with Windex, soap, water to get X, Y, and Z, right? I know the X, Y, and Z is going to be there. So I'm not going to envision touching the X, whatever the monetary gain is. I'm going to envision the work and try to knock out the work first, right?
Wow.
See myself rolling up my sleeves and with the water, with the soap and Windex and all that stuff. And I said, that's easy, man. Let's just knock that out.
That's a really, really good gem that you just dropped right there. I feel like most people don't do that. That's fantastic, actually.
Yeah.
I think if you go on social media, YouTube, for instance, and you type in motivation, you're going to hear a lot about people trying to manifest their goals, thinking about the goal, attaching emotion to the goal. But your ideal, I love that, is that's going to be there.
Yeah.
That's going to be there. Focus on the work.
That's it. Reverse engineer it. That's it.
Because if you do that, then you realize just how easy it is.
It's so easy, man.
Love it.
Everything is out there. There's a blueprint for everything.
There's a blueprint for everything.
Just don't skip it. Just throw yourself into that whole thing. You know, that's the secret.
That's fantastic. I love that. So what's next for you? Well, you have the book. Your business is booming. You're on this very prestigious show at the moment.
That's right. It's good. Yeah.
What's next for you? I mean, what's going to happen in 2018 that didn't happen in 2017?
I think we're on pace to being a very, very large national company. I mean, ideally, there are talks about maybe taking the company public or doing something of that nature. I'd be interested. We don't know where we're going to go with that. But I think right now the idea is really to continue to grow our store count, our agent count, and help other people at the same time, and continuing a healthy slither and portion of our revenues towards charity. It's one big thing. The company and myself are very charitably inclined. We're involved in about 27 different organizations and foundations. So giving back is important.
Wow.
Not just also monetarily, but giving back by adding attention and traffic, using the social media influence that you do have to open eyes to different topics and subjects that are out there that could use more help. Financially, or rolling up your sleeves and getting involved in volunteering. So I think that's, for me, is also an important component. The more the company grows, the more we want to grow in that aspect. In terms of philanthropy.
That's terrific. How important, how impactful is social media? Is the use of social media to your business?
I think it plays a big role, because you own your own newspaper, right?
Yeah.
It's really how presidential campaigns are won nowadays, and how the message gets out there. It is a part of life. It has to be a part of you.
Yeah.
So I think it plays an important component. It's not the only component, because you actually have to do the work, right? It's just not just online. You have to physically go and close deals and show apartments and do all those things. But it's really complementary to what we are, who we are.
That's why I love to watch and follow your stuff on social media, because it's not the cherry on top, enjoying dessert. Look how fantastic my life is. You're actually showing the work, and you're showing your ability to articulate and teach and help other people along their pathway as well. So if you're not following this guy on Instagram, Facebook, I highly recommend that you do. Anthony, thank you so much for your time. It's a great pleasure.
Yeah, thank you.
So worth us flying all the way from Seattle to come interview you in person.
Thank you.
Awesome. And thank you for watching. We'll see you again next week.